Again, I think the best reading of what happened there is who wanted JFK dead the most. Again, a lot of people said Israel wanted JFK dead. I'd love to hear that argument. But definitely Lyndon Baines Johnson and parts of our own government, and the Cubans wanted him dead. And who actually made it happen? There were like 15 or 20 things that happened that day that were inexcusable. They changed the parade route. He rode in an open air convertible. LBJ decided not to ride alongside of him.
So Patrick Bet-David decided to take matters into his own hands. With all the noise online, people trying to silence Candace Owens and defend Turning Point USA, he wanted to see what the public really thinks. There's been a lot of confusion, a lot of people defending powerful figures, and many still believing every word from official reports that don't fully add up. So Patrick ran a poll among his own audience, asking a simple question: whose side are you on in this online clash? Turning Point USA or Candace Owens? And the results were surprising. Even within Patrick's community, which tends to lean a certain way, about 70% sided with Candace Owens, while only 30% supported Turning Point USA. That's a huge gap, and it definitely raised some eyebrows. Now, it seems like the organization is trying to change the narrative. They've brought Erica Kirk into the mix, positioning her as the emotional centerpiece, hoping people will view Turning Point USA as the ones being attacked. But let's be real. The true victim here was Charlie Kirk himself, and to some extent, the country that believed in his movement. And here's where things get messy. Reports claim the organization made around $70 million off the back of his passing, turning it into a public spectacle instead of a moment of respect. It's no wonder people are starting to question everything happening behind the scenes. That's exactly it. People are finally realizing they've been misled. Evan Kilgore made a strong point when he said that nearly every major conservative influencer has been going after Candace Owens for months. Whole segments of their shows are dedicated to tearing her down day after day, yet somehow she's still coming out looking stronger and more genuine than Turning Point USA. That says a lot.
Right when it went by the Texas School Book Depository, a lot there, right? And then again, I think that all of us are smarter to believe that it was simply Lee Harvey Oswald. The more important question is not, oh, who did it? We have to first acknowledge it that more than one person did it. Once we acknowledge that more than one person did it, then we can expose our government to have lied to us about the JFK assassination, which then I think will sober a lot of us about trusting the government in the future.
And let's be honest, this kind of pushback isn't new. History's full of people who are turned into outsiders just for asking uncomfortable questions. Right now, Candace is saying things that many others are too scared to say, and people are listening. Big time. Some might compare her situation to figures who lost support after going against the grain, but this feels different. Candace isn't trying to run for office or play politics. She's simply calling things out as she sees them, and the fact that she continues to connect with people despite nonstop criticism shows how powerful her voice has become. Patrick Bet-David's poll made that crystal clear. Even his own audience overwhelmingly supports her. People aren't blind anymore. They see when stories don't add up, and they're done pretending everything is fine when it's clearly not. The truth always has a way of cutting through the noise, and right now, more and more people are starting to hear it loud and clear. There were so many strange and unacceptable things that happened around the time of Charlie Kirk's passing, and it's shocking how many of them are being ignored. Turning Point USA, Erica Kirk, and several major right-wing media accounts have stayed silent, and in doing so, many feel they're betraying what Charlie stood for. His legacy was built on truth and accountability, yet look at what happened. Reports claim there was no proper security on the roof that day, despite officials saying otherwise. They even mentioned having drone coverage that apparently never existed. Witnesses from the crowd say they saw someone climbing up, setting up what looked like a weapon, and preparing all before the tragedy unfolded. How could that have gone unnoticed by trained professionals? Then, unbelievably, the area was reportedly paved over just days later, erasing vital evidence. People who were there said what they saw didn't match the official story. Not the angles, not the aftermath, not the details, and still, those in power keep acting like everything is explained and settled. It's wild how ordinary people in the crowd seem to notice things that the so-called experts somehow missed.
Because I learned during COVID. I learned when they told us that it came from a bat in the Himalayas. I learned when they told us the vaccine was safe and effective. I learned when they told us that ivermectin was horse paste, that you better keep asking questions because it's the only thing that keeps us free. Thank you so much.
Witnesses even tried warning authorities during the event, but nothing was done. And it's not just this case. The same confusion happens again and again during major incidents. People speak up, call officials, and raise alarms, but their voices get brushed aside. At some point, you have to ask, Why do everyday citizens see the danger first, while those meant to protect and investigate seem to miss it every time? Something about that just doesn't sit right. It's not like this was one of those cases where everyone thought the person was harmless. Far from it. People reportedly knew something was wrong. Concerns were raised multiple times and even shared with the authorities. Yet nothing was done until tragedy struck. That's exactly why Charlie Kirk always pushed people to keep asking questions when things don't make sense, and anyone trying to silence those questions should be ashamed. Those who try to shut down open discussion, who act like it's toxic to question official stories, they're the ones doing real harm. Many believe there are individuals online getting paid to discourage people from digging deeper, to make the public stop asking what really happened. And that's not right. It's a betrayal of the very principles Charlie stood for. He believed in transparency, accountability, and truth, not blind trust in whatever story gets pushed out first. This is his legacy: to question, to challenge, and to stand for honesty no matter how uncomfortable it gets. Anyone ignoring that is turning their back on what he truly represented. When you look closer at what's been happening since Charlie's passing, the silence from the people who claim to be his allies feels impossible to ignore. It's like the louder the public gets about demanding answers, the quieter some of those insiders become. And that silence isn't peace, it's pressure. You can feel it. For weeks, social media has been on fire with people breaking down inconsistencies, timelines, and strange coincidences that just don't sit right. Yet what's the official response? Deflection, distraction, and a whole lot of nothing to see here. But the truth is, there's plenty to see here, and plenty that doesn't make sense. People close to Charlie say that the security setup that day was different from the usual protocol. There were reports of cameras turned off, people redirected at the last minute, and confusion about who was in charge of the scene. None of that lines up with the level of organization that Turning Point USA usually prides itself on. Charlie ran things tightly. So how did all these mistakes happen at once? And that's what has fans, followers, and even independent journalists asking the same question. How can so many red flags be brushed aside without a second thought? The more you look at it, the more it feels like those defending the story are hoping everyone just gets tired and moves on. But Candace Owens isn't one of those people. She's not moving on quietly. Candace has been standing her ground, asking the questions no one else dares to ask on air. Whether you agree with her or not, there's no denying she's sparked something. She's reminding everyone that loyalty isn't about silence, it's about truth. And that truth doesn't always come from the polished statements or the press releases. It comes from the uncomfortable spaces, the moments when something doesn't add up. She's not calling for chaos. She's calling for clarity, for someone to step forward and explain how a man with massive influence, deep connections, and a huge security network could still end up in such a tragic situation surrounded by so many unanswered questions. But every time she speaks, the same people who once praised her for her strength now twist her words, saying she's being dramatic or disrespectful. Yet these are the same voices that stayed silent when those first strange details started to leak out. Why is it that demanding transparency suddenly makes you the villain? The irony is heavy, because Charlie himself once said that when a system starts punishing people for asking questions, it's no longer about truth, it's about control, and that's exactly what's unfolding now. People are being told to trust a version of events that feels sanitized, cleaned up, and perfectly timed to protect reputations rather than reveal the truth. Even Patrick Bet-David's recent poll proved the shift happening in public opinion. His own audience, which typically supports major conservative figures, overwhelmingly sided with Candace Owens. 70% said they believed her side of things. That's not just numbers, that's a movement of people who are refusing to be gaslit. But the pushback against her has been fierce. Coordinated messages, influencer segments, talking points, all echoing the same line. Stop talking about it, let it go. But when has letting it go ever led to justice? When has silence ever protected truth? Erica Kirk's recent appearances have also stirred mixed reactions. Some viewers believe she's being used as a shield, a way to humanize the organization and make people hesitant to question it. Others think she's genuinely overwhelmed and caught between loyalty and the truth. Whatever the case, the narrative feels carefully managed, and that's exactly what makes people uneasy. You can see it on social media. People are no longer accepting statements at face value. They're watching body language, analyzing timestamps, comparing old interviews with new ones. They're doing the job that traditional journalists used to do before everything became about protecting certain names instead of uncovering facts. And through all of it, one thing remains painfully clear. Charlie Kirk's name deserves honesty, not silence, not manipulation, honesty. The most unsettling part is how quickly his legacy is being reshaped. What was once a message about empowerment, faith, and boldness is now being filtered through corporate statements and PR-controlled appearances. It's almost as if his image is being repurposed to fit a safer narrative, one that leaves out the messy truths. Candace's persistence is forcing that narrative to crack little by little. Each time she raises a question, more people realize they noticed the same thing but were too afraid to say it out loud. It's giving others permission to speak up too, and that's powerful. No one's saying there's a grand conspiracy, but when people with platforms as big as Candace's start noticing repeated patterns, it's impossible to ignore. The inconsistencies are too many, the coincidences too strange, and the reactions too rehearsed. That's why her words hit a nerve. It's not just about Charlie anymore. It's about the culture of silence around powerful figures. It's about how easily truth can get buried under headlines and hashtags. It's about how quickly people are told to stop caring once something becomes inconvenient. And yet, despite the noise, despite the smear campaigns and the attempts to rewrite history, there's a growing number of people who are paying attention, really paying attention. People who won't let this fade away just because it's uncomfortable. That's the real power here. Not in outrage, but in awareness. In the thousands of voices saying, wait a second, that doesn't make sense, and refusing to stop until someone finally gives a straight answer. If Charlie's legacy means anything, it's that standing for truth comes with a cost. He built his platform on conviction, on courage, on speaking up even when it wasn't easy. To honor that, people have to keep asking questions, not out of disrespect, but out of loyalty to the truth he believed in so deeply. Because at the end of the day, silence doesn't protect anyone, it only protects the lies, and no matter how long it takes, the truth has a way of rising, louder, clearer, and stronger than ever before. It's wild to think how quickly the story shifted after Candace started speaking up. One moment she was being praised for her courage and insight, and the next, the same people who once called her fearless began attacking her like she'd committed some crime just for asking questions. That's when you know you've hit a nerve. When people start panicking over simple curiosity. At first, it looked like a few misunderstandings, just standard online drama, but as time went on, it started feeling organized, like a coordinated effort to silence one voice before too many others joined in. Suddenly, every big name in conservative media had something to say about Candace, all echoing the same script. She's being divisive, she's spreading confusion, she's hurting the movement. But the more they said it, the more people realized something deeper was happening. Because here's the truth. Movements built on loyalty crumble when that loyalty replaces honesty. And what's been happening lately isn't loyalty, it's control. You can feel it. Candace has always said that being loyal to a person or a group doesn't mean staying silent when things stop adding up. It means holding them accountable because you care about what they represent. The public's reaction proves it. Everywhere you look, people are posting, commenting, and sharing clips, asking why there are still so many holes in the official explanations surrounding Charlie's passing. Every time someone asks one of those questions, they get labeled as toxic or crazy. But that's just what happens when the truth starts making powerful people uncomfortable. Let's talk about what's really upsetting people. Not Candace's tone, not her passion, but her refusal to back down. She's saying out loud what a lot of people are whispering privately. She's pointing out that when millions of dollars, political clout, and reputations are at stake, truth tends to get twisted, rebranded, or buried under legal statements and polished PR responses. That's why her defiance matters so much. She's not out here demanding blind faith. She's demanding transparency. And if that's too much to ask, then maybe that tells us everything we need to know about the people trying so hard to shut her down. The energy online has completely changed. What started as a few skeptical voices has grown into something much bigger. Independent creators, smaller journalists, and even ex-staffers have started dropping breadcrumbs of information that seem to confirm what many suspected, that not everyone was being honest from the start. And that's when the name-calling began. They couldn't disprove her points, so they attacked her personally. Suddenly, she was unstable, emotional, self-centered, but the irony is, the more they tried to discredit her, the more people started listening. Because when powerful people panic, regular folks pay attention. Even Patrick Bet-David's poll made that crystal clear. 70% of his audience sided with Candace, and it shook people. This wasn't some random online vote. This was a wake-up call. It showed that the public isn't as easy to manipulate as before. You can't just throw out a press release and expect everyone to nod along anymore. People are alert now. And then there's the deeper issue. What happens when truth becomes inconvenient? When honesty threatens careers, friendships, or donations? Suddenly, everyone starts talking about unity, as if unity means pretending not to notice the inconsistencies. But real unity doesn't come from silence. It comes from trust, and you can't have trust without truth. Candace has made it clear that she's not chasing clout. She's not using this to build her platform. She's been at the top long enough to know that speaking out comes with a cost. What she's doing is bigger than herself. She's forcing a conversation that so many people in power are terrified of having. And that's why some of her supporters are starting to worry about her. Because when you start exposing cracks in the foundation, those benefiting from the structure start to panic. They start pushing back in ways that go beyond words, isolation, silence, and smear campaigns. You can almost see the machinery working in real time. But here's the thing, Candace isn't fighting alone anymore. Every day, new voices join the conversation. Some are former insiders, some are fans, and some are just people who value honesty. They're piecing together timelines, comparing statements, looking at what's missing, and every time they do, the official story makes even less sense. The truth is, no one's trying to create division. The division already existed, it's just being revealed now. For too long, people have been told to pick sides, to choose between loyalty and truth. But this moment is showing that you can care about someone's legacy and still question how it's being protected. You can love the message, but still challenge the messengers. Look at how fast the tone around Charlie's memory changed. At first, it was about honoring his life, celebrating his work, and continuing what he started. But lately, it feels more like people are using his name to protect their own image. Every time someone tries to ask tough questions, they hide behind his legacy like a shield. But that's not what he stood for. Charlie's entire mission was about standing up, even when it wasn't easy. And the people doing the opposite now are exposing themselves without even realizing it. What makes all of this so powerful and so emotional is that it's not just a fight about one person anymore. It's about how truth gets handled in an age where everything can be edited, deleted, or rewritten within minutes. It's about how we've reached a point where asking simple questions feels rebellious. People don't want drama, they want honesty. They want clarity. They want to know that the people leading these movements care more about what's right than what's convenient. And as uncomfortable as this whole situation is, it's bringing something important to the surface, the demand for integrity. Candace has said it herself in so many ways. The truth isn't always clean or convenient, but it's always necessary. And maybe that's the lesson in all this chaos. Maybe it's not just about what happened, but about how easily truth gets buried when money, image, and influence are on the line. Because no matter how loud the backlash gets, one thing can't be denied. People are paying attention now. They're thinking for themselves. They're not swallowing the prepackaged stories anymore. They're watching, comparing, and connecting the dots. And once the public starts doing that, no amount of PR control can put the truth back in the box. Charlie Kirk always said the real fight was about courage, not comfort. And right now, that courage is being tested more than ever. Whether you stand with Candace or not, one thing is undeniable. She's forcing a conversation that this country desperately needed to have. And once the truth starts cracking through, there's no stopping it. Legacy isn't about titles or headlines. It's about truth. And once people accept that this situation was far more complex than one person or one mistake, that's when the truth will finally start to shine through. Because right now, let's be honest, there isn't a real investigation happening in the mainstream. The only digging being done is by independent voices. People like Candace Owens, Ian Williams, and a few others who are brave enough to keep asking the questions everyone else avoids. It's wild that we're at a point where ordinary citizens, journalists, and podcasters are doing what entire agencies won't, connecting the dots that never seem to line up. They're the ones refusing to accept silence as an answer. While the big outlets chase distractions, these few voices are putting in the work to find the truth that others are too scared to touch. And the more you look into it, the clearer it becomes that this isn't just about Charlie, it's about trust. It's about how many times people have been told to just believe the official story, only to find out later that half of it was missing. Whether it was global conflicts, major scandals, or public health chaos, time and time again, the public was told to stop questioning, but guess what? The questions never stopped, they only got louder. Charlie Kirk said it best himself, never stop asking questions, because the moment you stop, the moment you decide it's safer to stay quiet, that's when truth gets buried for good. And that's why Candace Owens and others refuse to back down. They know what happens when powerful people go unchallenged. They know that if you don't speak up, someone else will write the story for you and twist it to fit their version of events. It's not about starting fights or causing chaos. It's about making sure real stories don't get erased under pressure. It's about remembering what Charlie stood for: courage, honesty, and faith in asking why. That's his true legacy. Because no matter what anyone says, Charlie's message still echoes loud and clear. Don't trust everything you're told, especially when the answers don't add up. And if people shame you for questioning things, that says more about them than it does about you. Some do it because they're scared, others do it because they're protecting something. But either way, silence never helped the truth, and it never will. So here's the takeaway. Keep paying attention, keep asking questions, and don't let anyone guilt you into looking away. The truth isn't comfortable, but it's always worth it. And in moments like this, when the noise gets too loud, remember, why real clarity doesn't come from following the crowd. It comes from thinking for yourself. If you believe truth should never be silenced, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and drop your thoughts in the comments below, because your voice matters. See you on the next one.